to my faith, which is strong and deep. Yes, God. I commit to this world and spirit with love, and I share it. And so it is. Amen.
Ran away from the sun, ran away from the rain, hid away from everyone, ran away from the pain. Now I'm so out of breath, now I'm so scared to death. I'm not running anymore, I'm not hiding anymore. For the first time in my life, I will stand my ground, no more running round. Here I am, oh, here I am. What's a life covered up? Day and night not to fail, like a life without love is its own kind of jail. What a waste to regret what I haven't tried yet. I'm not running anymore, I'm not hiding anymore. For the first time in my life, I will stand my ground with my heart unbound. Here I am. Here I am. Throwing the game just to make sure that I never win. Kept counting myself out again and again. So nervous, running in circles till nobody knew where I'd been. Maybe today is the day that I let it all in. Maybe my secret hurts, no original sin. It's time, I've made up my mind, I'm ready to dive in. I'm not running anymore, I'm not hiding anymore. For the
Todd, you really moved me. You did. I got to say, you absolutely moved me. If you could crank me up just a tiny bit, Nancy, I think I'm just a little bit away from my microphone today, and I'm sorry for that. Levi, thank you as well. And, I think I'm supposed to talk about things that move me. That's what I think I'm supposed to do. And so when something like this happens, I got to talk a little bit about what it is that moved me. So many of us hide who we are, our lives, and we run from what we think we are. We don't recognize and understand the depth of our authenticity. And when I talk about the depth of our authenticity, I'm talking about this. Father Richard Rohr, whom I really, really enjoy, he happens to be a Catholic priest. He's a Franciscan, but he says this, which is all about the way we perceive this thing called life in unity. He says, God loves you so much that he simply became you. God loves you so much that he simply became you. And there's a deep, authentic self-meaning to that if you catch it. If you're right there in the center of it, you recognize that if you really, really believe that and commit to it and understand it, then you have aligned yourself with that which God is. And we know that presence as love. So whenever you are in this space where you're aligned with love, you're acting as your authentic self. We don't hide anymore. We can express this love. As a man, I have all my life run up against this idea that perhaps I have too many emotions. That maybe I'm maybe too emotional, and I'm willing to talk about those emotions. And I'm willing to step into things that are emotional for me, and I'm not afraid to shed a tear because I might be sad or because I might be overwhelmingly joyful. I'm not afraid to do that, but that was a journey. That was a journey. We often hide who we are and who we can express ourselves as because of what we think the rest of the world wants from us. Do you catch that? Yeah, and so I see this song. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding who I am. I am stepping into my authenticity. I am going to act like God loves me so much that he simply made me out of himself. Wow, what a powerful statement. Yeah, thank you for bringing that Daniel Nahmod song. Your voice could make anybody cry. See, isn't that funny? Sorry could be the response, or thank you so much could be the response, yeah. It's true, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. And Michelle, thank you so much for what you did today, too. You see, because what you did, in combination with what it is that Todd and Levi presented to us, what you did was allow us to recognize that this idea that God simply makes things out of itself because it loves it so much doesn't just apply to us, it applies to all that we see, all that we feel, all that we know, all that we are. This incarnation called Earth, this universe, simply made of God's stuff, you see? But not just this that we see, feel, and know in the material world and a bit beyond, but the power behind all of that, you see? You see how that greatness now all of a sudden arrives? That you feel that the power behind everything you see, feel, hear, and know is God as well. So it's greater than what we see, greater than what we can possibly feel and know, because we are not infinite beings. That power is back of all things as well, always creating. God, isn't it an amazing life? It's such an amazing life. And I get to stand up here and talk about that stuff. Today, what we're going to be talking about is the will. A certain aspect of it, actually, because we spent some time last week talking about the will and that it's the power to choose, that it is the power to make decisions. And it's also one of the 12 powers recognized by Unity. And we focus on that because what Unity has done this year is divide the 12 months up into discussions around the 12 powers. And so this month is the will, So this is the power to choose, yes, you see, the power to choose, the power to make decisions. The process, as we find through this month of self and that power and how it affects and is utilized through us as us. But now we got to figure out how to use it in a way that really makes sense for us. Use this will for us, the power to choose, because you can choose and not do anything with that choice. I mean, you do it all the time. You know, you have great thoughts. You choose to do this and you walk away from it. You end up not doing it. You go and do something else. You know, we think all day long, and sometimes those thoughts lead us to these ideas that wouldn't they be great if we could do them? And I think I'm going to do it. And pretty soon the day's over and you didn't. Oh, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. It's the human condition, you know. But sometimes there are things that we feel are so good to do or see or feel or know that we think that we'd like to see them unfold in our lives somehow. We're willing when that space arrives. We're willing to see those things unfold in our lives. But see, that gets us one step closer to having it show up. You know, I mean, first we have the ability to choose. Oh, let's choose it. Yeah, and I'm willing to choose this, and I'm willing to see it show up in my life. But I've had those things, you know, kind of flitter off into thin air too, haven't you? You know, I mean, I didn't really commit like I maybe should have. Commit to making it mine. Didn't commit to allowing it to show up in my life in a way that I probably could if I really wanted it. So we got the will, which allows us to choose, and then we have willingness, which says, I'll do that, and then commitment, which kind of pushes us into that space where, doggone it, we're going to get it done. Do you see where we're going with this? You see, we're getting a little closer to what it is that we want by seeing this process. And we're going to talk about how you strengthen that process today and how you make it something that is not just likely to happen, but will happen. So as always, you know, I like to take a look at quotes to see if there's anything out there that I might want to utilize that might drive home a point. And so I looked up a bunch of quotes, and I couldn't find any that I like. So what do I do when I look up quotes and can't find any that I like? I make up my own, right? I make up my own. I do. And so here's my quote. When you are committed to something, you are connected to it, and it finds you. Okay, now you got chills. I saw them. I could see those chills behind the mask. Are you ready? I'll say it again. When you are committed to something, you are connected to it, and it finds you. By Greg Dorst. So some of the things you're committed to are really, really important. You see, there's something else that I've noticed too, that, you know, a bird is really committed to its own flight, you know. I mean, because once it gets up there, it's in trouble if it's not, you know. It really is. So, you know, some commitments are really a little bit more important than others, I think. But we find that commitment is deeply tied to who it is that we think we are. I'll explain. Many people come to me and say, you know, I really want to make this commitment. I really want to be committed in this regard to this diet or to this program or to, you know, not doing something. You know, the will is I will, I won't, or I want. You know, that's really what the will is. We talked about that last week. But, you know, there's something I want to do, so I will do it. I'm committed to it. There's something I don't want to do, so I won't do it. I'm committed to not doing it. Committed to doing is, let's say, going to the gym and working out and getting in shape, all right? So I'm committing to doing something. Committing to might be that I'm committed to not eating sugar or certain types of flour or gluten or whatever it is I might be, engaged in, or drinking, or gambling, or something like that, or maybe spending a lot of money. I'm committed to not doing that. So it's the I will or the I won't. And so my commitment, they say, wanes, and I just don't get it, I say, well, I will bet you that you are more committed to doing something if it is going to be for somebody else or with somebody else. And they go, oh, yeah. When I'm going to do it for you, I'm really a lot more committed to it than when I'm going to do it for me. Because if I commit to, let's say, not eating chocolate cake, then I just go, oh, it's just me, Nobody's around. I'm going to go ahead and eat it. And I don't keep my commitment. And I might say, well, I'm sort of sorry to myself. But what I'm doing is I'm working a muscle. We talked about this last week. I'm working a muscle. And this muscle that I'm working is this muscle that says I don't have to keep the commitment I make to myself. That's the muscle I'm working, see? So when I commit this way, in this manner, to myself, and I do not keep that commitment, I'm saying one more time, I do not have to keep the commitment that I make to myself. That muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And pretty soon, you're just saying things to yourself. I'm a little self-disclosure here, just a little self-disclosure, because some of you know a little bit about where I came from, but I used to do that with drinking. I used to do it with drinking. I'm not going to drink today, or I'm not going to drink so much today, and then I would, and then I go, well, I'll just make that same commitment tomorrow, We'll see how it goes. I got really good at rationalizing and minimizing the impact of that, you see? The impact that I was having on other people, on myself. And I would sort of think I was pushing it aside, but what I was really doing was telling myself, I don't trust you, and it's okay. As if that doesn't have any ramifications. Not trusting yourself, having no self-esteem, self-loathing, all that stuff is in that same container, you see? And a lot of that has to do with being unable to trust who you are, being unable to keep the commitments that you've made to yourself. But you could sure point at a lot of other commitments that you've kept for other people, but not to you. Do you know if you don't keep commitments to yourself, that self-esteem aspect, which seems like it's not that important. I mean, a lot of people get self-esteem confused with, liking what you wear, or how your hair looks today, or what kind of car you're driving, or what kind of house you live in. People get confused about that. I can't have that kind of esteem that I want around myself because I haven't got the things I need to impress people. No, that's not what self-esteem is. Self-esteem is what you get when you trust you to follow through with things that are important. Be where you're supposed to be, and you start to develop some esteem that's real. You are actually committed and accomplishing the things you're committed to. You are where you're supposed to be. You do what you're supposed to do. You are committed, and things start to happen for you in the way you feel about yourself. You no longer engage in this self-talk, which is negative. Do you know how bad negative self-talk is? You do. I believe that you do. If you're here, you understand that. I mean, thoughts are incredibly important. The way your thought life is incredibly important. The thoughts lead to emotions, which lead to actions, which lead to you doing something that maybe you don't want to do, experiencing something, and then repeating the process, because that experience brings about another thought. Thoughts are the beginning stage of your life. What you're living today is an outpicturing of what you have been thinking in the past. By the way, when you answer that, tell them Greg says hi. Because that's God calling. Didn't I tell you that? Yeah, absolutely. At least that's what Richard Rohr says, and I believe him. So, Yeah, commitment is really important to the way you operate in this world. It affects your relationships because negative self-talk can affect your relationships if you cannot hold commitments that allow you to have that self-esteem and that feeling that you are worthwhile. It'll affect your work life. It will affect everything that you do, from your creativity to your pocketbook to your relationship to your physical and emotional health, all of it. So it's important. So now we understand just how important this commitment thing is. I mean, we should probably start working this muscle a little bit, you know? Seems like it's more important than push-ups. It does to me. I mean, because it has everything to do with the way I feel about myself, which has everything to do with the way that I treat you. Everything to do with the way I see life. Everything to do with whether or not I am going to align with my authentic self. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not running anymore. I want to connect with that authentic self. We can start by learning how to follow through on our commitments. So let's talk about prayer, because I love prayer. I love to talk about prayer. We had prayer today in a couple of different ways. Meditation to me is a really awesome prayer. Singing beautiful prose in a magnificent way is as deep a prayer as you could possibly have. It's so amazing. You know, when you see that everything becomes a prayer, you treat things a little bit more reverently, see? So that's kind of where I am. Just sharing these things with you, you know. That's how I see things. So prayer is incredibly, incredibly important. But if you wanted to enlarge your prayer life, if you really, really wanted to steep yourself in prayer, you know, connect with that power greater than yourself, align yourself with principles that you just kind of pay a little homage to now and then, maybe on a Sunday. Yeah. So, but if you really want to engage in prayer, and you say to yourself, I want to do that, I'm willing, I'm going to commit to praying every day, the likelihood of you doing it more than a few days is nil. It's unfortunate. It's nil. You can commit to it, you can be willing, all of that great stuff, but the likelihood of following through day after day after day after day after day is a little sketchy. Unless you bring some strategies to bear. Do you know if you had a prayer partner, one that you called on the telephone or met with for a cup of coffee or at the church or someplace else, that you would probably be able to follow through on that commitment a little better? Does that make sense? If you had somebody who was going to do this with you, it would sure as heck make it a lot easier, wouldn't it? If you put it in your calendar and you met that person, or this is even a better trick, you went to their house or picked them up and took them somewhere else. Do you know if you want to come to church on Sunday, the best way to do it is tell somebody else you're going to go pick them up to go to church on Sunday. Really? I mean, isn't that a great strategy? It really is. Because if you work together on this thing, I mean, not only are you committed to you doing it, but now you're showing that commitment by picking somebody else up, and you're not going to let them down. I already talked about that. You're not going to let them down. What a great strategy. I mean, if you want to practice your commitment to doing these things, then you'll start working these strategies, because remember, this is a muscle. This whole thing of being able to follow through on your commitments with your willingness and your will, that is a muscle. So as soon as you actually make good on a commitment, that muscle gets stronger. And the expectation is that you'll do it again. And that you'll do it again. And then pretty soon you know yourself as a person that keeps his or her word. And if you do it, you do it. And pretty soon, you're getting good at this. You know that if you make commitments to yourself in any way possible, you're likely to follow through, and that makes you more likely to follow through. Isn't that weird? You know? If you think you're more likely to follow through, you're more likely to follow through. If you don't think you are, you won't. You'll find a way to get out of it. It's true. So prayer, I mean, that's a great example of how this thing happens. Now, you guys know my history as well around alcohol, and I talked about that. I don't drink anymore. I don't drink. And one of the things that helped me was having a friend who said, you need to go to these meetings. And even said that he would pick me up and take me to those meetings. I mean, he did good, very good friend. He wanted to see me get better. He wanted to see me be able to follow through on my own commitments. Because when I was doing those things, I wasn't following through on my own commitments. So he was really helping me. He was really, really helping me. And so we went to the meetings, and pretty soon I said, well, I can drive myself. I'll be coming from this location, so you can't come get me. I have to drive myself, and I started to fall off on those meetings a little bit, I mean, I wasn't going every day anymore. Started to fall off. And so he came over to see me, and he says to me, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to this meeting, and you're going to get, at this meeting, you're going to get a commitment. I said, what is that? A commitment. Well, you're going to make the coffee for all these people. That'll get you here. Or you're going to set up the room for all of these people. Or you're on the breakdown team. You get to break down all these chairs when we're done. You're going to play a part in this. We're going to commit you before you really get committed, That word means a lot of things, doesn't it? So I got commitments, and I had to go. And you know what? Somebody told me one time that you only have to go to these doggone meetings until you want to go. And I thought, what is that? I don't get that. You only have to go to these meetings until you want to go. Well, okay, I want to go now. When I want to go, I go. If I want to go, I go. You only have to go to these meetings until people can't stop you from going to these meetings. All right, so this is really a good way to bring my quote to bear. I really like this because, you see, commitment, these commitments brought about a connection to that process that I had grown so fond of, that I had enjoyed so much, that I actually wanted to go to. That commitment created a connection with the process and the people involved. So commitment is connection. And now, you know what happened? I didn't have to go look at it. It found me. Somehow in this great big wide universe, the desire to go found me. Church is the same thing. You couldn't drag me away. Wild horses, don't we love wild horses? Couldn't drag me away. Love it. Next song. Yeah, so that's a great example of the quote. It finds you. There is a connection with commitment, and it finds you. All right. So here's another example. I love this example. I use it. We got the gym. We got getting in shape. We got getting in physical shape. You'd love to get in physical shape so you become willing. You make a commitment, you buy a membership, and you never use it. All right. Well, what could happen if you, let's say, got a trainer? And you met with that trainer every time you went to the gym, and the trainer had you do certain things, brought you through the process, helped you to get even more committed, connected, so that this whole idea of wanting to do it starts to really take hold. I mean, because if you become committed to something, to doing something, and you're connected to it so deeply that you could not stop yourself from doing it, it has found you, and voila, a new you is born. You see that process? You could probably see that in you in a lot of the things that you have done in your life. If you go back and take a look at the history of how it is you ended up where you ended up, a lot of that could be parsed out in ways that you can understand that this is a process that you have done before and you can do again. All right, so I went some, 20 years ago to a conference. There was a magnificent clinical psychologist named Dr. Maria Namath. And Dr. Maria Namath had about 30 of us in the room, and she had some rules. And the rules were every single day, we worked together, and it was for, 7 or 8 days. You had to be on time, and you had to be in your seat by 9 o'clock. You had to. And so the first day, well, actually the second day we were there, she read us the rules, we got the rules, we understood. The next day, 2 people are late. Oh my gosh, you'd think that the world crashed or something. It was huge. She stopped everything and she said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out how this will never, ever happen to you again. I don't know what the excuse was. I don't know, maybe you woke up late or you had an emergency or what. We're going to figure out as a group, use group think to figure out how this will never, ever, ever happen again. Come up with a list of strategies to make sure that John and Bob get here on time. Oh man, what a brainstorming session, you know? We all agreed that, well, maybe if we went over to Bob's house or John's house, we wake them up, we set their alarm, we give them a call. You know, we make sure that their mother calls them. I don't know. We had all sorts of ways to try and make sure this never, ever, ever happened again. And all of those things we came up with are really awesome strategies for making sure that we actually fulfill our commitments. Getting other people involved. Alarms set. Calendaring. You know, somebody calling you. I mean, these are great strategies. They really, really are. Use them. She woke us up to this, and she said, you know, I think that based upon what you've given me here in the way of strategies, we can confidently say that during this conference, Bob and John will never be late again. And she was right. She also knew that hide tanning that she gave him, that public whipping, was going to help too. See, because she's a clinical psychologist, right? So she can use every tool possible. So she knew that a little shaming in this regard might help just a tiny bit. Oh, shaming's not good. Guilt is better. I mean, what a great lesson for us to learn, you know? I mean, we can actually say, this is never going to happen again, and devise a way so that it doesn't. We really could. If we wanted to do that, if we were really, really committed, we could do that. Do you know what that could do for your self-esteem? Do you know what that could do for the trust in you? Do you know what that could do for your own self-talk? If you were able to do whatever you were willing to do and commit to in your life, you'd see things unfold that you can't even imagine would unfold because you knew how to make a commitment and follow through on it. Now, how does that become spiritual? It's the foundation of everything we believe about ourselves. When we don't do things right. Oh, I'm not worth it. I can't believe I did that again. I'm not worthy. You know, I don't know the ugly talk that you engage in, but it's possible that it gets even uglier than that. And that affects your life and in who you really are authentically. Do not go down that rabbit hole because you do not have to. Now, when I talk about these things, I want you to know I'm serious about them. And I talk about these things because they mean a lot to me. And if they mean a lot to you, go ahead and write them down. Take notes. Love it. There is a podcast that is all about commitment that I really podcasts. You can just type in commitment and you'll get that podcast called Commitment. And you could listen. There are books about commitment that are absolutely fabulous. Look, I can't remember my audio library yesterday, but I'll tell you afterward if you like. So these things are important. These things can help you to love yourself in a way that maybe you've been avoiding, maybe that you haven't been able to do. So next week, we're going to be talking about another aspect of the will. And I want you to be here because this process that we're bringing forward that's unfolding right in front of us is the process of co-creation. You see, you can't do this without the strength and the power and the love of God. And God can't do this without the strength and the power and the love of you. Because you got to do some things. You do. It's called co-creation. That's why we talk about it in church instead of just at self-help groups. It's co-creation. God does its part, we do ours. It's a spiritual dance. So I want you to know how much I love you and how much I see the God in you. The God in me recognizes the God in you. How's the song go? Namaste. Namaste. We had to make a song out of it so that we could remember it, right? The God in me recognizes the God in you, and that's happening right now with me in this very space. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Greg, for your awesome talks every week. And before we get to community giving, I want to share with you something that goes on behind the scenes every week here at Unity of Pasadena. Lovely Levi comes up with the song selection for each week's service. And I just want to thank him because he nails bringing that energy all together for us. So thank you. As you prepare your love offering or your tithe, let's remember the source of our abundance and affirm together. God is the source of my overflowing supply, and I am grateful. You may also drop a prayer request or especially a connection card with your email address in the basket as well. It's important that if you're new to the congregation, you want to know what the talk title is going to be for Sunday, you want to know who our soloist is, that you get on our mail list and we send out a weekend reminder of what's coming up on Sunday for you. So please fill those out. I got all choked up. And they look like that, yes. So make sure you're on our email list so you'll know what's going on here. And then Levi and Todd have another gift of music for us.
Together we take a stand for love. Together we make a change for good. Together we break the chains of sorrow. Together we live the truth. Together we raise our voice for peace. Together we sing and jump for joy. Together we move, oh we groove, we dance. Together we live the truth. Future's bright. Oh, we hope. Oh, we hope. Oh, walk our talk with spirit together. We boldly shape our dreams together. We share a life of freedom together. We live the truth. 'Cause in every part of me there's a part of you, oh yeah, alright. And when I'm loving me, I'm loving you, oh yeah, alright. Today we live the truth and the future's bright. Oh, oh, we oh, oh, we oh, oh, we oh, the future's bright. Oh, we oh, we oh, we live and breathe as one, with kindness and compassion we free our love, we free our life, we free the truth, and the future's bright. Together we take a stand for love. Together we make a change for good. Together we break the chains of sorrow. Together we live the truth. Alright. 'Cause in every part of me there's a part of you, oh yeah, alright. And when I'm loving me, I'm loving you, oh yeah, alright. Today we live the truth and the future's bright. Oh, oh, we oh, oh, we oh, oh, we oh, the future's bright. Oh, we oh, we oh, we oh, together.
Both for lovely music this Sunday. Steve, will you bring the basket forward? Let's all raise our hands in blessing of these love offerings. God's divine plan for Unity of Pasadena is manifesting now. For each of us individually and as a community, for all we are and all we will be, we say, thank you, God. Okay, we have a few brief announcements. We had several responses to our request for Sunday team reinforcements last week. Thank you very much. A team leader will be in touch with you. And there are just any number of you who contribute to this service. So I want to thank you one and all, whether it's in prayer or whether it's in active participation. Thank you. Please stay for hospitality hour today and visit with each other. We get to know each other a little bit better during that time. There are treats and coffee, and if you don't see something that appeals to you to eat, feel free to bring it next week. All offerings are very welcome. All right. Our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever I am, God is. I am divine, and all is well. And now, if you feel comfortable, please join us in the peace song.
Let there be peace on earth